Now let's get back to something full size, actually quite big and chunky. The Custom Explorer. Um, what what is this thing? Well, it's a composite of multiple guitars. The whole nucleus behind this is the body, a 1983 Hondo Deluxe Series 780 body, what we call the hippie sandwich. The outsides are ash, the middle parts are rosewood, and then it's got some what looks like pine and mahogany down the center. The overall guitar has been modified. Originally, the Deluxe Series 780s had just the controls down here, the three-way was down here, and then you had volume and tone, and it had like a regular Strat hardtail bridge on it. I redid this and it didn't have that. I redid it so it had a tremolo, and so it had the classic Gibson Explorer pickguard because I really like where the switch is. I've always liked Gibson Explorers. They're one of the few Gibson models I really like enough to say that I would probably own multiples of them. Not a big fan of the Les Paul, though I do intend to own at least one Les Paul type instrument someday just to have that kind of sound around. The Explorer, though, it just looks cool, and I find it really comfy for me, especially this one with the back contour. The body's done in Minwax wood sheen, the same stuff I did my Jazzmaster with. For about 6, 7, 8 years since I built this thing, it didn't have any sort of a finish on it except for like gummed up wood conditioner that I let dry out, and I painted it over the body. This Minwax stuff looks a lot better, gives it kind of a really sheen 3D kind of look to the wood, and it stays that way as opposed to just looking like it was done the other way. Kind of has a gun stock quality to it, you know, like the butt end of a gun. It's got one volume, one tone, three-way switch to switch between the pickups. It's got some vintage EMG pickups in it. It's got a EMG H, which is probably from the 70s or early 80s, and an EMG 60 in the bridge. Very classic rock kind of sound. It's got a Washburn Wonder Bar tremolo system, no locking nut though. Kramer Striker 100 ST neck. I didn't even cut the strings off at the end. I think these are old, really old strings I have on this. It's got the stock nut. It's got regular headstock. I put a sort of holographic star on it. And it's got Shaler tuners. And of course, it's a bolt-on like pretty much everything I have. It's got one little problem on it up near the, what is it, 12th, 13th fret? See that? Yeah, right here. If you look really close at that fret, right about there, I don't know if it's visible, you can see where it's been pried off the fretboard or knocked off by a screw from the neck joint that had pushed it up. I had to fix that and grind that back down to make the guitar playable again. Doesn't have the best action of any of my guitars. This is actually one of my earliest builds. When I first assembled this, it was in 2001 when I was about 18 years old. So I've had this one for quite a while. It originally had passive electronics and phase reversal on it, but I swapped it out because I like the EMG look more. Pretty much sounds like a your run-of-the-mill Explorer, you know, the whole... Yeah. Yeah, it needs a little bit of tuning. The EMG H makes it sound just a little bit different from usual two humbuckers because the H is actually a single coil sounding, a single coil and a humbucker form factor for the, you know, Les Pauls and Explorers and things like that. But yeah, it's pretty much its sound clean, you know, bridge, both pickups on, neck pickup, and crunch tone, very, you know, kind of very Def Leppard kind of sound. Or maybe Cheap Trick. Yeah, that kind of thing. Very much a crunch tone kind of guitar in the bridge. Generally just use it in the bridge position most of the time, so I hardly ever use the neck pickup except maybe when playing, you know, leads. You can hear that single coil kind of clunkiness in the neck, and that's the bridge sound. Of course, it's got that crunch to it, the heavy metal sound. I mean, it's an Explorer emblem. So yeah, that's pretty much what it sounds like, standard kind of Gibson-ish sort of sound. Vibrato system works lovely on it. Now if you want to hear the story on the Washburn Wonder Bar and exactly what it is, here's a close-up view of it. It's sort of like a cross between a Kahler and a Jazzmaster vibrato, with some styling similar to a Steinberger Trans-Trem like you'd find on the old Steinberger guitars. This back piece moves forward. The strings are threaded underneath these rollers here and over these rollers here. The intonation is adjusted just by unlocking a hex bolt here and moving the saddle forward or backward. You have these fine tuners back here with a really, really wide range of adjustment, and that's pretty much the Washburn Wonder Bar for you. And of course it requires no routing in the body, so if you have a guitar, the good thing about these is if you had a guitar that you didn't want to deface or ruin the value of all that much by routing out a big chunk of wood, you could just bolt this flat to the top. I've seen a lot of SGs and things of that type. I think I've even seen a Mustang with one of these trems before. Works pretty good. Has a collar on it to adjust the tension for the vibrato bar to hold it in place. You just roll that collar around the bar nice and tight and your bar stays in place and doesn't move. Really effective system. The downside to it though is that these are really rare. You cannot find these very easily. When I found this, the guy at the shop just pulled it out of the parts bucket. Said, "Hey, I have this old trem. You want it? Give it to you for like $30." It's like, all right. I didn't even know what I had. I don't even think he knew what he had either. I just put it on here, and all of a sudden I play a video with this guitar. So it was like, "Is that a Washburn Wonder Bar? Cool. All the rare." I'm like, I didn't know I had something like that on my hands. But yeah, it's pretty good guitar. I still play this one quite a bit. It's mostly used on heavy rock nowadays as opposed to anything else. Mostly 80s style heavy rock is what I use it for. It's what suits itself well to. I also occasionally use it for Metallica covers and things like that, but otherwise it's just pretty much, it's my token Explorer to have around until I get the other two Explorer bodies I have. I have two Arbor Explorer bodies. They're plywood. One red, one black, and they both have a lightning bolt on them that I plan to do something with in the future, but we'll see about that next axe.